Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Rare Breed Spin Along. If you're new here, my name is Becca and I'm a hand spinner, knitter and newbie weaver, and you're very welcome to my little fibre art space in my home in West Wales, UK. If you've been here a little while, then you will know that I decided one of the things I wanted to do to improve my hand spinning was to spin all the rare breeds that there are in the UK. I mean, rare breed of sheep. And I sort of put it out there, would you be interested in spinning along? And so many people said yes, that I decided that I would host a spin along. Now, you don't have to spin these in the order that I'm spinning. And if you're not in the UK, the likelihood is that in your part of the world, the rare breeds will be slightly different. So I would like to encourage you to spin what's rare in your country and support fibre producers in your country. So I am spinning my very first on my list, and there is no particular order I'm doing this in. It's just as I'm finding things that are available, because some of these rare breeds are not as available as, say, something like Corriedale, which is very easy to find. I put up a poll on the community tab asking you what you'd like to spin first, and the outright winner was the Manx Loaghtan. I believe that's how you pronounce it. I'm not going to lie, I found this a bit challenging. And although I've been spinning for nearly 20 years, I spin a lot of the same fibres, and I've got my favourites because I did a breed study sort of 20 odd years ago, but I haven't really done one since then. And I just sort of established these breeds that I like to spin and wool that I like to spin. And it's been really interesting to reacquaint myself with something that I last spun about 20 years ago. I span a couple of small skeins a couple of days ago, and I will just let you see how I got on. Right, what I'm doing here is I'm just having a little play around with the tension and try and get the tension the way I like it. And tension and twist is a really individual thing, so let's just have a look and see what the plyback test looks like. Yeah, still a bit too much twist going in there. So I'm just turned the tension knob so that it is drawing the fibres in more quickly. Now what I like is, yeah, that's probably not enough twist, so down slightly. I like about, so I like it when I'm doing a plyback test, I sort of like it to go back about 6 twists on itself. It's very personal preference, but that's about what I like. If I'm doing it on the smaller ratio, then between 7 and 8 twists back on itself. In a minute we'll get the yarn gauge out. Now, because I have been spinning on this wheel a long time, I sort of know about what I get when I spin on these 2 different ratios. But it would be interesting to put a yarn gauge on. And if you are trying to get a consistent yarn, and if you're spinning a lot of the same fibre and you want it for, say, a big project like a jumper, then actually a yarn gauge is a really useful thing to use. If it doesn't bother you that much, then, you know, just go with the flow. But I will put a yarn gauge on this in a minute. Let's just see how that is looking twist-wise. Yeah. Bit too, turned it down a bit too much. Just back up again a little bit. Getting very close. Just a little. sometimes you get it right first time, and other times you're just kind of playing around with it and playing around with it. Because the last thing I was spinning on here was the Welsh mule, and that is quite different from this. A little bit of hay. Even mill prepared stuff has hay in it quite often. So because I'm spinning this worsted style, I'm not letting the twist into the drafting triangle. So I'm smoothing down all the fibres. So it's a worsted style of spin. Right, let's just see how that's looking. Right, how many twists have we got in there? 4, 5, 6. Still, because I spent an awfully long time spinning a lot of the same type of fibre, when I had access to free fleece from my sheep keeping friends, then I used to spin Jacob and Jacob Klin crosses all the time, and they were so consistent that I really never, or hardly ever, had to kind of fiddle around with getting the right tension. But today I am really having to fiddle around just to get it the way I want it. Let's see, what have we got here? And I also noticed that I'm sort of spinning off the side of the comb top, which I kind of have a habit of doing, and I don't know whether that's good or bad. I just sort of end up doing it. So sometimes it gets a bit messy doing that. Okay, I think that is, yeah, that is about what I want, I think. So how many twists have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There you go. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Right. So just smoothing down, and we are, so there's a short forward draw. And I'm trying to keep my treadle consistent and the amount of movement in my hand consistent. Quite often people talk about inchworming along. Now, it can be a bit of a sort of handful, this amount of fibre. So I'm going to stop and break it, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to split it down. And then work from that. And I know people get really sort of determined that, oh, I can spin off everything and I don't need to split my fibre down. Well, you know, you do you. I find it quite helpful to split my fibres down, particularly when I'm spinning just straight off this top like I am at the moment. It's a lot less fibre in your fibre supply hand to kind of wrangle, and it just makes things a little bit easier, I think, and you can split it down as many times as you like. Okay, let's get the yarn gauge out and see what sort of width I'm getting. My guess would be that it's around about Aran weight, because that is about what I spin when I spin on this slightly bigger whirl. Because I'm spinning on an Ashford traditional that is sort of circa 1986, then I have 2 whirls. The different Ashfords of different eras have different whirls, and this is, was it 7 to 1 or 6.5 to 1, something like that. And yeah, I seem to get about Aran weight. Right, okay, let's have a look and see what I'm actually getting. So I think it's somewhere between those two. And it's somewhere, okay, so I'm trying not to put tension on it. So I'm kind of somewhere between those two, which is about what I thought it would be, which is somewhere between Aran and worsted. And by the time it's been finished, I think it'll be around about Aran weight. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see at the end of the process. Right, what are worsted yarns good for? So they're smooth and quite dense. So you get good stitch definition. They're really good for weaving. If you are making something that's got quite a strong pattern, so something like a cable where stitch definition is really important, they're really good for that. They are drapey, so rather than sort of having lots of sort of fluff and squidginess, they're quite drapey. So if you were making something like a shawl, then a worsted spin would be quite a good thing to do. Socks, normally you'd spin socks in a worsted style or spin 4 socks in a worsted style. But all these things are subjective, and the thing about learning to spin is that it means you can make the yarn that you actually want for your project. So if you like a dense yarn for a jumper, there's no reason why you can't do that. And I think a lot of us come to spinning from knitting because we want to have more control over the actual materials that we use in our knitting. So I think one of the real joys is when you go from being a beginner spinner and you're kind of not quite sure how it all works and it doesn't quite work the way you want it to, when you sort of get past that stage and you sort of are starting to actually really understand spinning, then you can start to design specific yarns for specific projects. And I think you are at that point then spinning with intention. And as much as I think it's very important to just spin for the joy of spinning without a project in mind, sometimes really do need to have a project in mind. It gives you a bit of a plan, and you then don't end up with a great big stash of random skeins of yarn that you don't really know what to do with. I put my hand up to that every time. So I'm just going to carry on spinning this, and when I've got my second bobbin done, I will come back to you and apply it. As you may well have guessed, I am spinning and plying all on the same day, and it's not something I do that much. I think there's quite a lot of debate as to whether you should or shouldn't do it, but I'm going to probably do that throughout this process, and I guess by the end of it I'm going to know whether it makes a huge difference or not. I mean, the theory is that you should just let the fibres relax a little bit after they've spun, and they ply better and just behave better if you give them a rest. Yeah, we'll see. I've read arguments for and against both, and it has always been my practice that I let it rest. But just because I'm doing quite a lot of spinning in quite a short space of time to try and get these videos made on time, then I'm not sure about it. I have been thinking that I'm actually going to have a week between each video because, you know, we all have busy lives, and if you do want to spin along, I think it might be quite sensible. I mean, these first 4 are going to be one after another. Then going to have a bit of a break for Christmas if you were sort of watching this in as it comes out, and then start in the new year. And I have been thinking that the first and third Wednesday of the month will be spin along videos. So if you think that would be helpful, do let me know in the comments below. Now, I have talked about the fact that I'm sort of concentrating on a different element each time. So at some point we will come back and talk about plying a little more. But at the moment, it's just simple 2-ply. I haven't got a break on my bobbins and I don't really find it a problem. I know some people like to have a break on their bobbins when they're plying. I guess it depends what you're used to. And of course the other thing you can do is actually measure the degree of sort of the way you're plying, and we will do that, but not for this. That will be sort of a little bit later on the series. Really just in today's video I wanted to just talk about what we use worsted yarns for and get this first one under my belt, if you like. So I'm going to just carry on with this and then I will come back to you when it is finished and dried and I've knitted up a sample. And I will do a video about finishing and I'll do a video about swatching, but you know, I just don't want these videos to be like great hour-long things. I like to keep them to around about the 20-minute mark. I think that's quite a sort of quite a civilized length for a video for me and for you. Right, I'll see you in a little bit. So I've been playing around with this, trying to get a woolen spun version, even though I've made rolags, because it was comb top to start with. I don't think they make such good rolags. I think if I'd messed about with it on the blending board a little bit or put it through a drum carder, I think the fibres would be more messed up. So I'm doing this very sort of short little backwards draw and letting the twist run into what I'm drafting. I don't know how successful this is going to be, but I promised you I would show you my mistakes as well as my successes. Okay, that's just trying to slow it all down a little bit. I mean, I can't do long draw at all with this. A very little short backwards draw is working. Oh, that's getting a bit better. Yeah, that's getting a bit better. I think it's I've got too much twist in here again. But this is the purpose of doing these sort of little test spins, is so that you work out quite how to approach all these different fibres. I said it before and I shall say it again. I've got really used to spinning certain fibres, and so this is going to be a huge challenge, just all these different fibres. I sort of decided a long time ago what I liked, and a lot of it was to do with what I had available, and I sort of haven't really spun a lot of different things. Yeah, this is not the world's greatest spinning demonstration, is it? But you know, it doesn't go right all the time. But yeah, that's sort of working, isn't it? But yeah, I'm going to carry on with this, and I will see you. Let's see how. I mean, it might be all right. I mean, there's a lot of twist in there, isn't there? Let's see if I can improve it. And yeah, I'll carry on with this and I'll see you in a bit when I take it off the niddy noddy. So here we have the moment of truth. Is this going to be a balanced yarn? I mean, there's quite a lot of twist in it. I could have gone a bit less twisty. Oh yeah, I definitely could have put a lot less twist in that. So I think I could have actually had a lot less twist. I mean, bear in mind that this has not rested, so there's an awful lot of energy still in here. Gonna finish it and see what it looks like when it's finished. So this is the first skein that I span up, and this was in a worsted style, and now I've finished it, actually it is very nice and balanced. I'm quite pleased with it. It is a bit thicker than Aran weight, I would say. I'm going to get the wraps per inch measurement out in a minute and we'll have a look at it. So this is the skein, the little mini skein that I did in more of a woolen spin. I have to say, I don't think there's a huge amount of difference in it, and I think that's more to do with my spinning than the actual fibre. It's quite springy, so it's kind of got quite a lot of bounce in it. I personally think that I wouldn't like this next to the skin. It's a little, yeah, it's not like Corriedale, it's not like some of the really, really fine wools, it's not a merino, but it's really nice. It's a gorgeous colour. Love the kind of springiness of it. It's kind of lovely and squidgy. I think it would make a great cardigan or a hat. I would definitely weave with it. So yeah, I'm quite pleased. Okay, the dog has just seen a squirrel. I'll be back in a moment. My feeling is that it would make a really good cardigan or jumper or part of a nice bit of colour work on a hat or something. So really liked it. I'm going to knit some up and I will drop in the results at the end of the video. I'd love to know what you've been spinning, which rare breed you spun, how you found it. So if you can just share in the comments what you've been spinning, what it was like, and if you're sharing on social media, please use the hashtag #RareBreedSpinAlong. I'm only on Instagram and YouTube. I am not on any other social platforms. I'm really happy for this hashtag to sort of have a life of its own. I most certainly don't claim any ownership over this format or, you know, kind of the way I'm doing it. The idea is that we're just raising awareness as a community about these amazing different breeds, and you don't just always have to spin Corriedale and Merino, which I think we have a bit of a tendency to do. My idea is the next 4 weeks or the next 4 videos in a row are going to be the spin along. Then as I'm recording this, it's going to be Christmas, so I shall probably take a bit of a break, but I do have a project that I'm going to share between Christmas and New Year. More will be revealed later. So next week it is long and really looking forward to spinning that. So I'm just going to go away, knit those up, and I will drop the results in at the end with what the wraps per inch were. Before I show you the samples that I've knitted, I just wanted to say that if you are interested in the calendar of Andrew's photography, then it is now available through Zazzle. The link is in the description below. Now with Zazzle, that's print on demand, so it's only printed if someone buys it. So I really feel that that really helps with the sustainability of it, in that I'm not printing a load of things that, you know, maybe never sell and they end up just in the bin. If you are not based in the US, then Zazzle will ask you for the country that you're based in. It should automatically kind of give you the option to change to where you're based, so you're obviously then seeing your prices in whatever currency is right for you. You can also change the layout of the kind of calendar below. So If you're in the US, you can have US holidays. If you're in the UK, you can have UK holidays. I will also say, I'm not sending these out. These are coming from Zazzle. So if there's any customer service issues, you need to go directly to Zazzle. I have no influence on postage times. Having said all that, there are some really great Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales coming up. So do look out for those because they will be really, really good. I never know what they're going to be, but they are always really good. So enough with the advert, and I'll show you what the samples look like. Here's our first sample. This is the worsted spun one, and wraps per inch. It came out at 8, which is absolutely spot on, Aaron. And I knitted this on 7mm needles. I'm going to write a full sort of article that's going to be on the newsletter, and the newsletter goes out on a Tuesday, so it will be next Tuesday if you're kind of watching this in real time. And if you want to join my newsletter, I will leave a link in the description below. Now let's have a look at the woolen spun. So here's the woolen spun, and that's actually 7 wraps per inch, so it was a little bit bulkier than the worsted spun, but I mean, you can see there is not an awful lot in it. But yeah, I'm pleased with the way this turned out in the end. I definitely want to spin this again. I think this is really, really lovely. And I'll put those in the right order. And yeah, so happy with those. Now, it wouldn't be one of my videos without a little bit of the outside. So I'm going to leave you with a bit of fresh air, and I will see you next week.